So hello and welcome to another episode of Mojito Mondays, Mojito Monday Match Analysis. I'm Mojito, and this is not my mojito, but it is a UV Blue and Sprite mix drink that I loved in college. So we're going to be doing some analysis for one of my good buddies, NerdyHydra, and he's going to be playing Franks against raywagner88. NerdyHydra has just started playing Age of Empires, so we're going to be looking a lot more at the big picture stuff as opposed to some of the small micro decisions that could be improving small things. Since we need to learn more, we need to talk more about unit compositions, counters, stuff like and general overviews. So we're going to go in for that. These both players, I believe, are under the 10 game limit, so we don't exactly know their elos, but they should be around 900. So let's get right into it. So let's see how your start is, Hydra. I'm probably going to say Killbo a lot. It's the same person. Okay, so right off the bat, the first thing you want to do, and these are just some strategies, right off the bat, you want to build two houses. You want to build one house with one person and one house with two people. And you usually want to do that right at where they spawn, so long as it's over 3 tiles away from the TC. And just that way you want to be able to get the houses down right away, so that way these villagers can be used for something else, and you can start producing villagers out of your town center. You do not want your town center to be idle, because it's you want to be, hey, what's up, tryhard? How are we doing tonight? I'm doing some analysis for a new player, and then I'll be playing a few games after this analysis. So yeah, I think if you had so that's one thing, is just build the houses right away, and then use your scout to grab the sheep, and then go for it. So yeah, use these villagers to get the sheep, which is fine. Hopefully you only kill one. Okay, so one recommendation is I'd move the sheep out of the way, just because once they finish farming the sheep, they're probably going to move on to the nearest sheep, which can be multiple different sheep, and you don't want multiple sheep because these resources will rot. So the food rots over time. Like every couple seconds, it'll lose one food. And so if you start killing a bunch of these, you're going to lose a lot of potential food because they just chew through it. And this is all stuff like you're starting out. There's no shame in it. But yeah, you can see right away you got housed. So that's why you build the 2 houses first, because you'll have enough resources to do that. So you're going build a house. That's fine. Again, you want to keep it more than 3 tiles out, because that allows you to build farms around your town center. But small things to work on. So you're scouting with your scout, which is very good. So you shift Q, which is good. I would recommend not necessarily, especially because I know you have higher APM than most people starting out with Age of Empires, just because you played StarCraft. I would recommend trying not to queue up this many flags, just because if you're going like this, and then you find if you found a sheep right here that was just on the edge of the vision, you wouldn't actually trigger it, and you wouldn't get it. So if you would have to wait till your next loop to actually get it. So queue up a couple, but then keep an eye on it, so if you need to adjust it all. Additionally, if you do all this queuing up, if you have one of the flags set in the middle of a forest, your scout will actually get stuck, and then they won't be able to continue on. So right here, if that flag probably will get your scout stuck. But so yeah, you're gonna get housed again, just because you only have one house built. But we can see if we watch this. Okay, so they actually moved to the same. I hope you may have queued it up. But so you may have queued it up, which is good. But luckily they only went to 1. So one thing is you're gonna want to have 6 villagers on food to start out. If you have 6 villagers on food, whether it's herdables or later on farms, it will allow you to keep up steady villager production for that one TC. So if you want to get the first build order besides the 2 houses is to get 6 vills on food. If you're playing Britons, you can get away with 5, but that's a specific thing that you don't need to worry about for now. Additionally, if you're gonna start going, can you queue up on AoE 2, or is this Definitive Edition? This is Definitive Edition. So this is AoE 2 DE. So Hydra, if you're going to start chopping wood, don't bother with these straggler trees. These straggler trees aren't worth chopping, because you have limited amount of wood in these, and then you want to save these for later for idling. So if your villagers need something to do, they can chop this. But what you want to do is once you have 6 villagers on wood or on food, then you send and build a lumber camp at one of your wood areas. So you'd go and drop a lumber camp back here, and you want to drop it right here, and then you send your villagers to go chop wood here. Because what happens is because your villager chops relatively decently fast, so they're gonna go through this tree eventually, and then they're gonna have to walk around and find another tree. But if you build a lumber camp over here, and you chop down these trees, you're going to have more trees to get into. So that way you don't have to waste time walking around. So straggler trees are definitely, you don't want to chop them right away. It's not worth chopping them. Unless there are very specific builds where you want to do that, but those are very advanced builds. So, yeah, so like, you're putting your villagers onto resources, which is fine. But, yeah, so you got your goats, sheep. If you change category, you can probably get more viewers. Am I on the wrong Age of Empires? I am, aren't I? I am on Age of Empires. Oh, whoa. Yeah, I wasn't. Whoops. Thank you for catching that. I always forget about that. Okay, so now you're building a mill. So, yeah. So, again, this is where build orders come into play. Let me show you something real quick. So, Barber, or not Barber, fucking Kilbo, or Hydra. We'll remember it as Hydra for now. Here we do screen. So, if we look at this, there's this build order PDF. And I would recommend taking a look at this. And this is the one by Cicero is the one you want. And so this will tell you, like, what you want to do. And so usually, like, this gets a little more advanced. But the idea behind this is that you want to get, okay, 6 on sheep. You're probably looking at this one. But like 6 on sheep, 3 on wood, and then 1 on boar, 1 on sheep. And then berries. This just helps make sure your eco is balanced properly and getting the resources in the way that you need them. So, getting a mill before either your getting a mill before your lumber camp or getting one of your boars is definitely rough because A, it's going to cost you wood, which luckily you've been chopping wood, so it's not too big of a deal. But it's not what you want. Again, your houses are too close. That's going to cut into valuable space. When you find your sheep, you want to bring them back to TC, because if your opponent comes by and grabs them, then they're going to be able to steal your sheep, and then you're going to run out of food. So again, you got housed, which at least you noticed. If you do get housed, a lot of times it's worth it to just send an extra villager to build it, just so it speeds up how fast it actually builds. And that way, because right now it's worth more to have less idle time in your TC than it is to be collecting resources. So you want to make sure, like, number one priority is not to idle your TC. So, okay, you're sending your sheep back, which is good. Again, you want to get a lumber camp. Sending more onto that, which is good. So here's the problem. So you can see what happens when you keep all your sheep underneath the TC, is that they've killed 2 individual sheep, and now you're going to be losing food from this. You're also going to run out of sheep a lot faster and have to figure it out from there. But at least you have a bunch of people, and this is where shift queuing can be useful. It seems like constantly building villagers is priority number 1. Yes, exactly. So early game villagers is number 1, because again, it's in order to win the game, you need to have the military. In order to get military, you need to have resources. In order to get resources, you need to have villagers. And you know, the classic more stuff beats less stuff. If you start at the top with the villagers, the more villagers beats the player with less villagers. Very big picture, but yeah, you want to make sure not to idle. Because if we look at so actually, let's just see, we'll get rid of Fog of War. So you can see here, he has a little bit better build. He has a lumber camp going. He has his sheep out of the way. He has 5 on food, which isn't the right thing. He's playing Ethiopians, but yeah, so he is, yeah, so that's kind of the thing, is like you're doing it, you have the right ideas all over here, but it is one of those things where it's just like, okay, now that we're aware of what you need to do, then we'll just, these are easy improvements to make, luckily. So, yeah, so you can see that, like, they have to walk around and find these stragglers. You just build a lumber camp, and you're going to be getting a lot faster wood income. So usually you want to build another house around here. I'd recommend watching some tutorial videos. Either tutorial videos, or I'll show it to you at the end of this, but the tutorial build orders are really helpful, just because it helps show you, like, what the actual order of things to build is. And that way you can learn kind of things. Like, for example, at 12 villagers, when you'd usually want to start building another house, because by the time the house completes, you will probably run up with get housed. You want to try to avoid idling village. Okay, so you're building a barrack. Okay, that's a very, very early barracks. Because the thing with the early barracks is that if you keep making villagers, you're not going to have the food to make units out of it. And the only unit you can build is militia, which might not be very helpful. On top of that, it costs a lot of wood, and now you're going to have to chop straight, like, since you don't have a lumber camp, you don't have a way to actually get more wood easily. You're going to have to be chopping from here, and then this is the case where it's like, you're going to have to walk 4 tiles to drop off the wood, which takes a long time. So this barracks is way too early, and this is where build orders come into play, especially because you're going to have to build a house and you're going to get housed. So, but yeah, you're losing a lot of wood here because we have 3 different sheep that are killed, it looks like. Yeah, you have 3 different sheep that have been killed, so you're having 3 times the rotting food. Oh, are we going to try to lure a boar? Alright, let's see how this goes. Perfect, yeah, no, that's a great lure. Let's see. Yeah, this is fine. Come on. Oh, jeez. Don't lose a vill. Don't lose a vill. Okay, so we can talk a few things about that. So with the boarville is when the boar gets about here, as you saw, it takes a couple shots for the boar to actually die. So usually when the boar gets like within a couple tiles is when you want to pull all your food guys and start shooting at the boar. You kill the boar under the TC, which is really good, so they don't have to walk anywhere to drop it off. But you lost a vill to that. Losing a vill is, again, more vills beats less vills, and since that's priority number 1, that was your first boar attempt. It was pretty good until it wasn't. There was a very easy fix to that, actually. Like, losing the vill is rough, but what you could have done there... So, priority number 1 is not losing vills. Priority number 2 is making more vills. And so in that situation, what you could have done is you just take your... This is where hotkeys can come in. You take that one vill who's being attacked, and you just garrison them into the TC. I have that set up as G for myself, or as tab. But, so if you garrison your vill into the TC, the boar can't attack them, and you can... then he'll have to switch targets to another unit. But by that time, you should have taken enough damage that he can't kill another full health unit. So in that case, then you just pull your villager out of the TC, you ungarrison them, and then you've saved yourself a villager. So, so when you have this situation where you have a bunch of rotting food, I would recommend putting a villager onto at least each one of the sheep. Like this, you shouldn't have this much rotting food, but it's usually a very good idea just because then you prevent yourself from losing too much food from rot. Additionally, these houses don't need to be next to each other. It's nice to get them as a wall, but like if you're going to use houses to wall up, then you want to build them on the tree line because you want to use the natural formations to help you with your wall. These just block your space. So like a house here, 2 houses there, and then houses, like you could do houses along here. It's hard to wall up, but like you could use that. And so another thing we can talk about real quick is this barracks, as we said, you made the barracks, but you're not using anything for it. So you invested all the resources, all that time into building this barracks, but you're not using it for anything, so it's just a waste at this time. You could have saved it and waited till you needed it, and then built it then. So another thing is that this is... is there a fruit bush there? Yeah, okay, so with berries, trees, and... Yeah, so with berries and trees, you want to Tetris your stuff. So put the lumber camp along the line of the trees. Put the berry along the line of the berries 90% of the time. Berries are there's some special cases with berries, but generally Tetris it. And then with mining camps, so the reason you do that is because the trees have only 100 health. Berries have 125 health. So you can chop through them relatively quickly, meaning that as you saw here, the more you chop, the more walking they're going to have to do, the more idle time those villagers are going to have. The thing with stone and gold, stone has 350 health, and mine's much slower. Gold has 800. So you're not going to mine through those anytime fast. So you want to make sure to have a one-space tile between putting your mining camp on the resources. Additionally, you don't need stone anytime soon. Stone isn't useful until Castle Age, sometimes in Feudal, but really you don't need stone until Castle Age. So building this mining camp here and starting putting people on stone is useless because it's just a waste of time and resources. Like putting it on gold is one thing, because you can use gold for other stuff like archers in Feudal Age. You can use it for men at arms and or militia from barracks early on. But generally, in Dark Age, you don't need gold or stone. So generally, you want to focus entirely on food and wood, and get your villager count up. So, but I mean, at least you're expanded to other resources. You stop yourself from getting housed. Usually, you want to build houses ahead of getting housed, just as a heads up. But like at this point, like building a second house would be nice, just because you know you're going to need one, which I think it looks like you might actually do. Where are you going with that Vil? Where are you going with that Vil, Kilbo? What are you doing? Looks like you're trying to figure out what to do. Lumber camp, perfect, excellent, excellent lumber camp. So this is a very good lumber camp. It's Tetrised in. It has a lot of surface area. It has 6 trees surface area, so that's good. It is so another like big picture thing. It is taking one of the more rear. It's taking one of the rear lumber camps because you know your opponent's going to be somewhere over here. So this means it's less likely that your opponent's going to be able to get to this lumber camp and harass it. So this is usually, like, I usually try to take the back lumber camps. Taking a forward one means that if you had archers, like if you took this one, if you had an archer right here, that archer could attack the villagers, and that's a big no-no. And you don't want that to happen. So you'd have to move your villagers off that lumber line onto another one, and that could be annoying. So taking a back lumber camp is good. I would move these 4 immediately onto that lumber camp and just start building it right away. And that way they don't have to worry about chopping stragglers. So, another thing you can think about is when you're running low on boar meat, is when you want to start thinking about getting your next boar. So like, probably when your boar gets like 50 food, send a full health villager to go lure a boar, and then by the time they shoot the boar and bring the boar back, then they're going to be able to, they'll finish eating this boar, and then they'll be immediately ready to start attacking this one, and then you won't have any downtime. Because what's going to happen is you're going to finish this up, and then you're going to have nothing under the TC to eat. And so they're going to have idle time, and idle time is just like not having villagers. So, like, are you going to do the berry master strat? These are all going to berries. Alright, so this is why, again, you want to spread out your... Oh, you even left some sheep there. So a couple things to talk about. One, you're sending guys over here, which is very good. You're sending them on the wood. So that's good. But you're sending your villagers, all these villagers on berries. The problem with this is that you're going to run out of berries very fast, and then you won't have any food source income. So what you want to do is you want to start spreading out your food sources. So like you have this boar, which would be useful. Also, side note, use your scout for something. Either keep scouting, or there is auto scout on the first scout you get. So if you use auto scout, it'll just start scouting random parts of the map. Don't use it right away, but once you've scouted the immediate area in your base like you have, then you want to use auto scout. You feel free to put on auto scout and just let it scout the map for you, because that way you can find other piles like this. So you just want to know where the other resources are, so later in the game you know where you need to expand to. So, but going back to the berries, if you put too many on berries, you're gonna run out of berries, and then all these guys are gonna have nothing to do, and you won't have a good food income. So if you don't kill too many sheep right away, and you don't lose too much food to rot, and you get both your boars, it should help spread out your food eco, so that you have the same amount of food last longer. And that way, by the time that you're starting to run out of berries, you're starting to run out of all your sheep and your boar, then you have a bunch of extra wood to start making farms. And that way you don't have idle villagers, and you always have a constant food income. So you're going to run into a problem soon where you run out of food. Another thing you can do is that, this is a very, while we're waiting, you can spread out your villagers and put them on both sides of the lumber camp so they don't bump into each other. Villager bumping is the #1 cause of slow workers. So yeah, you're sending this one to this side, which means that they won't have to bump in as much, whereas 4 on this side will bump in. But yeah, so it's like, you have the right idea of putting a lot of villagers onto resources. You're getting feudal age, which is fine. You had the resources for it. Again, you don't need this one on stone. This is a waste. Additionally, you don't need stone. It'd be better to have gold, because gold is useful in feudal. But let's take a look at, real quick, what your opponent's doing. So he has 2 on gold. He might be trying to man-at-arms. But, yeah, so he has a lot on wood. He's getting his resources. You can see that he's idled his villagers really badly here. But, so you're using your scout, which is good. Sending your scout forward, that's really good. Not the best board pull. So that's one of the things with pathing, is that if the villager runs behind other people, it might not get there. It gets weird sometimes, but, since you're going up to feudal, See what's your villager? Oh man, he is crushing your villager count. Yeah, so the idle TCs really got you, and then now you're going for feudal, so you're gonna be behind. So yeah, you can queue up villagers. That's fine. You could use the food to make some other stuff, but don't worry about it. Queuing up villagers means that you won't have any downtime, so that's good. You have one again. Don't Tetris your mining camp. If you put it one square off, just one square to the right would have been great. But so when you do start getting a resource, usually you want, like, putting one villager onto that resource isn't usually worth it. If you're gonna get that resource, start committing and get 3 villagers on there. Like, you don't, like, oh, you can already see you've already ran out of all these berries, right? Like, you're gonna have all these villagers doing nothing. So if you send some of these villagers onto the gold, some of these villagers onto stone, then you actually start mining stone and gold at a reasonable rate that it actually becomes useful. And then also you wouldn't have burnt through all your berries right away. But now you're gonna run into a problem where you have no berries. Hopefully you start dropping farms, but so you can see right away that you're running. Okay, so you start dropping farms, which is good, and you know to drop the farms right around the TC, which is very good, and around them. So the reason you drop it, so again, you got housed, so make sure you don't get housed. But the reason you drop your farms around the TC first is because if they were to all of a sudden send people to attack these villagers have to walk all the way to the TC to garrison and escape. Right now they can't escape themselves, whereas if you keep your farms on the TC, you can immediately pull them off and just garrison them into the TC and prevent them from being attacked. So, something to consider. You're scouting, which is good. See what you do with your scout. He's probably on auto scout. Yeah, he's on auto scout. So be careful, you don't want to walk right into TC. And the reason for that is, as I was saying with garrisoning, if you garrison villagers into the TC shoots arrows, and those arrows can kill your scout. And your scout's worth way more than just the information it gets from just running into a TC. So usually you want to avoid that. And so if you see your opponent's TC, just, make sure to avoid it. But you have other things going on, so it's not too big of a deal. He didn't catch you. But yeah. So, don't tell me you're gonna send it right back in. Killbow. No! Didn't realize auto scout existed, so you just click random places on that. And that's fine. So random places on the map will get you. So the thing with random places, so usually the way I do it is I do my scouting, I do 1 or 2 circles. I also use sheep to scout, but that's more advanced. Once you get your general area around your base, I usually will do scout in the middle of each corner. So like I send it to the opposite corner and then this corner, and then I keep checking on my scout, which you can use with hotkeys. So like I always hotkey with 1. So like I'm doing stuff over here, and then I'll double click 1, get to my scout and check it. And that way, it's like you did the right thing where you check this corner, and then you're checking this corner, because you're much likely to find the TC. So if you have the APM to do that, keep doing that. Don't use auto scout, but because auto scout will run you under the TC, whereas this will, if you keep checking your scout, then you shouldn't run into that problem. But yeah, you found where your opponent was, and once you find where your opponent is, it's better to just try to figure out what they're doing. And so, running your scout around here kind of just to see what he's up to is good. But again, don't run under the TC. That's super dangerous. So, luckily it's not too bad. So you can see that he is using these houses to kind of make a wall. Like he's did these with the houses, with his barracks. So that's kind of one thing where you want to use your houses for. Is you want to use your houses to essentially build. Imagine they're like supply depots in StarCraft, and they're Terran, where you have to you use the first 2 supply depots to actually create a wall so that you can't get Zerg rushed. Think of it that way to a smaller degree. Also, Hydra, how long is this game? Do you know roughly? Just so I know if I need, like, how much I can actually go into details versus how quickly I should be fast forwarding. Because if it goes for like an hour and a half, probably want to start fast forwarding through some of the smaller points. So, if you know where your opponent is and you don't want to scout them anymore, this is when you would keep using your scout to go check out random spots. So it's like you check your fog of war, you have all this black area, just like drop a bunch of random rally points around here and have your scout just check all that stuff out. You had the right idea, it's just you gotta keep doing it. So, let's see. So one thing is okay, yeah, these houses, they could have gone here and gone up to the wall and protected you, like 45 minutes ago. Okay, after the first castle 2 is staying this and definitely doesn't go your way. Okay, we'll get there. But when you have this many people on woodline, it's like I said, villager bumping is really inefficient. So if you move like 4 or 5 of these villagers onto another woodline, it would be a lot more efficient. And then you also have 2 wood lines, and you can populate them. And then if one wood line gets hit, you still have another wood line going. So don't cluster onto one resource too much. But so where are you? Yeah, so you're going on stone. So usually at this point you want to consider what you're going to do. So he's just hit feudal. How many villagers is he? So he's going fast castle, but actually he built a barracks. So why would he build barracks? Yeah, whatever. So make sure you don't idle your villager. You can keep making houses, but so again, you don't need stone anytime soon. So putting 2 on stone is a waste. Why did that lumber camp? Weird. There we go. Yeah. So at this point, it depends on what you want to do. Whether you want to go to castle, which I think you're trying to do. In which case, you need more food. You want to have like usually around this time you want double the food of the wood. So like you don't have much, but you definitely want to have more. Start dropping a lot more farms because you're not using the wood to build anything else. So yeah, getting some more farms, which is good. You also want to think about getting your eco upgrades. So one of the best things you can do if you're trying to get a lot of resources is to get your eco upgrades. Those eco upgrades exist in each of the individual camps. So we're talking about stuff like, oh, you have double bit axe and you have horse collar. Good. So you have your eco upgrades. Those are very good. Oh, farm upgrades are free, so ignore that. But double bit axe. So you got that because that's faster. The mining upgrades aren't too important. You get those as you go up to castle if you need them, but definitely double bit axe and horse collar are much more important. Wheelbarrow is also very good to get at some points. Usually around 40 villagers is when you want to get wheelbarrow, and then I think around 60 villagers when you want to get handcart. But yeah, so it looks like you have the right plan. You just need to figure out how to actually the proper order of doing things, and don't idle. So I recommend one of the most important keybinds you can make is your idle villager hotkey. It might make it a very easy thing to hit. Mine is spacebar. I highly recommend spacebar. If you have a mouse button, use your mouse button. But like, if you're doing something, again, idle villagers are the same as not having the villager. So if you have an idle villager, and now you have the hotkey, the find idle hotkey, I can press space, and I immediately go to that villager. And so, like, a lot of times late game when a lot of stuff's going on, if I need to fix my economy, I'll just press space, find the idle villagers, figure out something to do, even if it just puts them onto woodline. Doing that will help you get your economy to keep going, to keep chugging along. So, building a stable, that's fine. Again, you can use it as a wall, but getting a stable to get some units out is good. Getting your food is good. So at this time, usually, like, it's a very good idea a lot of times to send your scout. Where is your scout? Send your scout, even if your scout will end up dying, but, like, keeping an eye on your opponent to see what they're up to is a good idea to send your scout in. Because, like, here you see that, oh, he's walling, so you know that he's not, so you don't have to worry too much about being attacked. But you'd also see that he has an archer range, so you could assume he's going archers. And that just gives you an idea that, hey, he has stuff going. Also, this flag on the top means that he has units garrisoned there. And that means that he actually has built army. So if you were to send your scout out here, you could see that, hey, he's going archers, and he is already making some units. So you know you might actually have to be prepared for a defense. But he is walling up, so you can assume that he's not going to actually be aggressive. So keep your town center active, unless you're, well, or you can just wait till you get to castle. So you've hit 800 food. So if you hit 800 food and 200 gold, you may as well just hit castle right away. And then that way you just will get to the castle age where you get your knights, and that's really useful. So you're building an archer range, which is fine, but you've already built a stable. Early on, you don't need to do switches. Usually you want to focus on a single unit, and then make a second. So you have essentially you have the stable, and then you have the barracks. Early on, archers and scouts essentially trade with each other. Scouts, like microed archers, will beat scouts, but if you have enough scouts, they get to the archers before the archers can do anything, and archers have really bad defense and health, so they'll die to the scouts. So if you don't need to make an archer range to try to counter their archers, even though you don't know that. But if you're, like, especially as Franks, you don't have any useful units that come out of the archer range. You don't get, like, building, like, outside of skirms, which is fine. Archer range was for the castle upgrade. Might have been able to make something else instead. For the castle upgrade. there's no castle upgrade that comes out of the archery range. Castles, the only prerequisite to building Castle Age. Oh, Castle Age, yes. Blacksmith, yeah, exactly. Char has a very good point. If you're going, so the unit, so you have multiple options to build for getting up to Castle Age. You have the archery range, you have the stable, you have the blacksmith, you have not fish traps. What else do you have? I think it's just those, and you have the market. Where's the market? Where's the market? Market is somewhere. Where is market? Market? No. Blacksmith. Gate watchtower. Market, here. So market's the other building. So market will help you balance your eco if you need to. So you can sell stuff and then buy stuff if you need to. And then blacksmith will get you upgrades. So building a stable is fine if you're going to use, like, usually for a fast castle, if you want to do a fast castle, the important thing you do would be to build a market and a blacksmith. Blacksmith is very good because, as Char said, you can get your upgrades, meaning that you get like defensive upgrades and then attack upgrades, and your knights will get stronger. And because archer range, yeah, it helps you with your to click up to castle, but it does nothing for you. So building a blacksmith or market, where it's something you can actually use, will be much more useful in the long run. So, additionally, 4 on the archer range is fine because you're going to click up, which is fine. Send it back on the bit. Farms, which is good. So yeah, like, once you've clicked up, usually you want to start figuring out what you're going to do, which I assume is going to be making some stables, or making knights. So you're building your houses, which is good, so you won't get house popped. A very helpful thing that all the pro players will do is that once you hit Castle Age, assuming you have a good enough economy, keep one villager as your house fill. And that just make sure that one village just keeps building houses, either as a wall or in the back. Just that way you will never get house. Because ideally in Castle Age, you're making so many units between your TC, your army buildings, any additional TCs you have, that you don't need, that you will always have enough resources and you'll always be pop capped if you don't keep building houses. So, like, this guy could have just kept building houses and you won't ever have to worry about getting pop capped. To a certain degree. But, so now that you've hit Castle Age, let's see what you're researching. You're getting knights. Good. Again, upgrades would help a lot. So if this has been a blacksmith, you could research your defensive upgrades and then your attack upgrades. And that'll help a lot because this knight will be way more tanky. The difference between a knight, I mean, it's StarCraft where, you know, a +1/+1 Zerg versus a 0/0 Zerg. Who's going to win that? We all know the answer to that. So just think of it that way, where upgrades are as important in this game as they are in StarCraft. And so you had enough. So if you're going to build a castle, castles take a long time to build. Send a bunch of villagers onto it, at least 3 or 4, especially because you'd rather have all 4 of these villagers building this castle right away, and then you can send them back to go mine more stone. Now, let's talk about the castle placements. This castle does nothing except be in the middle. You have 3 options for castles. 3 options. Your first option is to build a defensive castle to protect your economy. You can build it here, you can build it here, you can build it over here. That castle will be there to essentially we'll ignore the fact that you just need to build a castle. That's fine. Even though, you know, I don't think a castle is too useful in this situation, because you'd rather just spam knights. But we'll ignore that for now. Because getting a castle is great, because you get some good units from it. But this castle, yeah, so a defensive castle go here, and that just prevents your opponents from running in with units and hitting your guys, because the castle is going to take them out. Then the second option is to use a castle to defend a resource. So this castle could be a little closer over here, and it would be, if it's overlooking the gold, then it's like you could drop a mining camp here, and mine the gold. And that way, that if they try to raid this gold or try to fight you for the gold, you have the castle backing you up, and it's really hard to pressure a castle. Additionally, real quick, this would have been a really good spot because if you're on the hill and your opponent, like, high ground works differently in Age of Empires than it does with StarCraft. StarCraft is usually just a vision thing. In Age of Empires, it's an actual damage difference. So if you have the high ground, you deal 25% more damage. If your opponent has a low ground, they take 25% more damage. Or they deal 25% less damage, I think. So building a castle on a hill is a very good thing because that castle now becomes very deadly. And then if they start using trebuchets to try to attack the castle, those trebuchets will deal less damage to the castle. So the third option for the castle is to build it forward and try to use it as a way to attack your opponent. In this case, this castle does none of those things. It kind of defends this, but not really. So you could build the castle like right here to just pressure like this area. But more importantly, you'd want to build a castle in a way that it pressures a resource. So in case if you wanted to, 23 minutes in. What's up, Iron Chef? Yeah, it's NerdyHydra just started playing the game. So this is, I think, like one of his first ranked games. So I'm just kind of giving him the overview of what needs to happen. So, so you could have built the castle here. If you built a castle here that hits this lumber line, let's see what your Fog of War looks like. So you know he has a lumber line here. And this is where scouting comes into play if you're going to do a castle drop. So if you're going to do an offensive castle, dropping one here, because what happens then is that it cuts him off of this wood. And now he has to find a different place to put the wood. And then also gets you a really nice place to mount an attack. So yeah. So that's a quick castle talk. But again, multiple villagers would build this castle, and then if you send all 4 of these villagers on to build this castle and send them back to stone, you'd end up with just as much. You'd end up with a good amount of stone still, and have that castle up way earlier. But right now you're building stables, which is good. You don't have the economy really. You need to build a lot more units. And so this is one of the problems with DE is that units can get stuck, and so that's why you want to make sure to spread them out and make sure you're probably a mistake then. Couldn't make much happen with that castle exactly. When it's just out in the open, it does nothing, and it just is easy pickings. And then yeah, like you want to make sure your villagers are always working. If this mining camp had been one tile to the right and you had all these openings, it's much less likely that they get jammed together and get stuck. So you can see that these 2 villagers aren't doing anything, and they're not even idle. So that's an annoying thing. But yeah. So building houses again. Keep building houses, which is good. Keep making knights. That's good. Just make sure you're not idling villagers. But you're building units. So when you build units like this, again, you want to get your upgrades. Because the knights will be stronger, so you're going to start pressuring, which is good. Sending your second villager up here, which is really good. You may as well commit, yeah. Go and attack. So, if you're going to show your opponent what units you have, be ready to actually be aggressive. Like, get a use out of them. I mean, granted, he has archers out, but those archers aren't going to deal much damage. So I would send these guys right in to attack this palisade. You see that he has archers, I'd send him somewhere else, try to find a way to get into his base, and start hitting his villagers. Because again, the player with the more villagers usually wins. And so if you can get those knights in to start hitting those villagers, you're going to probably win more likely. So yeah, you get your villagers out here to finally start building your castle, which is good. At the very least, if you're going to build a castle like this, you want to start being really aggressive. So that's why you want to use these knights to start attacking the wall. Maybe make some more forward production buildings. But yeah, so you don't need 5 again, you don't need 5 on stone necessarily at this point, because those 5 could probably be going on wood and food. Or golden food, because you need that golden food for more knights. You can build a second stable to get multiple knights out. Don't idle your TC here, you have plenty of food. Okay, so you're trying to castle drop. Okay, so yeah, this is another thing where you're trying to castle drop. If you're going to be really aggressive with a castle, you do need 4 villagers at least. And then again, going back to those 3 tenets of what a castle can do. This castle, well, it kind of attacks here. It doesn't really do much, and then on top of that, this castle is already in this area. So you're already kind of claiming this area in the name of NerdyHydra. This castle, like if you had placed it over here, it gives you a second point to attack. Put it over here on a hill, gives you a second place to attack. These castles just kind of get clumped together and don't do much. Like yeah, it's gonna make it really hard to attack this area, but again, like even if this was worth defending, if your opponent starts taking out this castle, there's a very good chance that this castle goes down too. So that's why you want to spread your castles out, make them actually cover a much more useful area. So he has a bunch of archers. Like, at least you have a game plan. Your game plan is definitely knights and castles, which is fine. And you're actually executing towards it. Big problem now is you couldn't figure out a way to the base. So the way to get into the base is by attacking it. And that sounds as a joke, but these knights, you've invested all these resources into these units. Start attacking your house. Start attacking these walls. Force your opponents to react, and if they don't react, then you have a way into the base. Additionally, this castle will get in. But you're in Castle Age, so you can build siege workshops. Siege workshops are beautiful. So siege workshops is over here. Where is it? Somewhere. There it is. I didn't realize that siege workshop comes off of blacksmith. But yeah, so if you build you build a blacksmith. But you build a siege workshop. Battering rams are really good, especially if he's going archers because they have really high pierce armor. Mangonels are good. So building either of these two right now would be really good to start breaking in. So essentially, there's an idea that you could do a 1 TC, 1 town center all in with when you hit castle, and you're kind of doing that. Where if you build a siege workshop forward in this like general area, and then you send rams or mangonels forward to start pressuring, and then you have knights to defend them, then what's going to happen is your ram and or mangonel is going to start taking down the buildings, and eventually let you get into the base where your knights can run rampant. And then if he sends his archers to go try to attack your rams, 1, they're not going to deal much damage to a ram. 2, a mangonel will be able to counter archers early on because a mangonel deals a lot of splash damage, and archers will die from a mangonel shot. 3rd, if they get out here and try to actually get up close, try to fight your mangonel or your ram, your knights can pick out the archers, and the archers are going to be better than your rams if they're behind a wall, but out in the open, your knights will win. So this is just like, you have a very good step up. Actually, let's check how many units he actually has. Oh, that's a lot of more archers than I thought. Never mind. And he has a lot of pikes. So you have a very dangerous situation where he has more military than you, and that's fine. Siege would be very helpful here, because, like, again, all these units are going to have to clump up, and they can't chase down a mangonel very well, so 1 or 2 mangonel shots will wreck them. So if you're going to do these kind of strategies, a mangonel will be very helpful. But, so like, you have the right idea, you just don't know how to execute it, which is fine. Again, this is if you're going to be this aggressive and show your opponent that you're building a castle in his face, because if we look at this, he should be able to see this castle. Or maybe not. But if you're going to build a forward castle like this, you want to actually be aggressive. Like, you want more villagers on. Like, these villagers should all... At least some of these villagers should be onto that castle. So, another thing is that houses have a lot more HP than palisade walls. So if you were to go to attack these palisade walls, especially with knights, you'd break through right away. And then you'd get into eco. Don't attack houses unless it's the only thing you can do. I would investigate, check around, and see if you have a better attack area. Like, you could attack any of these places and get in. Like, you don't need... Yeah, like, any of this area, and you could get in. So, he's going to build a defensive castle over on his view. But yeah, now he sees all these archers, which is dangerous. So if you see this, you run away. Because you can't fight this. Because you don't have range units, he does. Unless you had a mangonel, in which case a mangonel shot would be juicy. But this is when, like, with knights, your biggest benefit is your mobility. So if you immediately see these archers, you just go, screw this, run to somewhere else, and try to find another place to go in. You can micro it into 2 small groups, but right now you're just losing units to nothing. So yeah, you're running away, which is good. And that's fine. That guard tower is terrible. But, so yeah. So what are you doing right now? So you're getting a monk. Interesting. What's the monk for? So the thing with a... Oh, no. We don't want to do that. With the monk, you can get relics, which is good. But you can try to convert stuff, which is fine. You can also micro where your castle's attacking. I'd probably attack the watchtower, taking relics for gold. That's fine. The thing with relics is that, yeah, they're helpful, and you probably should get them. In this situation, if you're doing a much more aggressive strategy, you're not trying to get to a point where the relics are useful. Relics are useful much later in the game, after a lot of the gold has been mined out. Or if you're Lithuanians, but that's a different story. So in this situation, you shouldn't bother, like, getting relics isn't too useful because you're kind of committing to this attack. You're trying to really, not necessarily end the game here, but you're trying to get such an advantage that late game steady gold income isn't going to be useful, because you're trying to kind of, like, make a statement here. So, yeah, it's like, you have the right idea, you're trying to get more resources, which is good, but in this specific situation, I would rather have had more knights and a siege workshop. So... Because, yeah, it's like, as you said, it's hard to get in here, and now this castle is just trading with this castle. Additionally, if you didn't know, you can garrison units, and if they're archers or villagers, they shoot more arrows from TCs, towers, and castles. So now this castle has a lot of units in it, and it's going to shoot 16 arrows as opposed to your 4 arrows. At this point, things go south just because he can't figure a way in. Just starts outplaying. Yeah, so if you can't get in, so with this in this situation, he's rebuffed your attack. One, you should, again, your knights are way more mobile than any forces he has. Start attacking the different walls. Try to find a way into his base. Because, like, yeah, you can't get in this side. But if you get in through here and just run your guys in through the back, kill a bunch of these guys, that's just as good. So always investigate, like, the rest of his base with your knights, because you have the mobility. Like, if you attack here, send half your force here to attack here, and then you send 4 knights up here, he can't cover that much ground with archers. Archers are slow. So, additionally, the other thing is that if your attack fails in this situation, you're not getting in. Let's just say you're not getting in. All right? Start booming. So, get a couple more TCs. Try to get a lot of villagers. And then with a lot of villagers comes a lot of units, or a lot of resources, and a lot of resources come with a lot of units. And so then that way you can start starting to, that's called booming. And it's just like, well, if you're not going to be making military, you may as well drop 5 bases in StarCraft and mine. Like, think of it this way. Like, if you're not going to pressure a Zerg, what is a Zerg going to do? The Zerg is going to expand to 6 different bases, and then just flood a bunch of gold units, or gas units on you, right? Like, that's think of it in StarCraft terms, where it's, if you're not trying to win an attack, you're trying to boom. Blue walls are very greedy. The ones further away will be impossible for them to be reinforced. Exactly. So, even if blue is able to reinforce these walls, you're still forcing blue to spend time and APM and mental energy defending against those attacks. So it does, eventually he's going to fail, and it prevents him from, like, just doing nothing means that he can sit back and do whatever he wants and boom, and then you don't force him to do anything else. So yeah. Additionally, if you're going to get into castle wars like this, one thing you can do is get to Imperial, and then you can get trebuchets and attack. Trebuchets will beat his castle, so. So right now you're not producing anything, which is a mistake. You have, even if you're waiting to go up to, so this is where you even have a market. So if you had a market right now, speaking of Imperial, if you had a market, you could sell food for gold and immediately click up, and then you can get your trebs right away. So that's why markets are very useful. Additionally, you only need 1,000 food and 800 gold to go up to Imperial. So if you were to, you can use this food to make scouts. You can make more villagers. Yeah, you can use it for upgrades. So, yeah. So, okay. So you're sending your guys in again. He sees this, and again, he's attacking. Don't attack here. Okay, so good. You recognize that. Honestly, like, okay. Even with all these archers, you could probably get away with trying to attack this palisade and try to run in here. Just because by the time these palisades go down, you're only going to lose, like, 1 knight. And then if he's not defending it with these pikes, you could sneak in and start wrecking havoc. But, unfortunately, you don't. And, yeah, attacking a weak house isn't worth it. So he's going to start walling up, which is smart. Okay, oh, wow, so you do get in. But, okay, so let's talk about some stances. So this is where some Art of War is useful, is different stances do different things. If you're... so there's a couple things we need to talk about. One, you're familiar with attack move, because attack move is a thing in StarCraft. In this game, you can attack. There is attack move, but there's also patrol. I'd recommend using patrol, and just that way, if you click on a single unit, pathing gets weird. It doesn't. This is a 20-year-old game. The pathing doesn't work too well. But if you do attack move or patrol, all of a sudden, the moment these units see a unit that they can attack, they will start attacking, meaning they'll spread out and start attacking these archers, and you actually deal some damage here. Second, again, it's a choke point. I would not run into a choke point against pikes, which counter your knights, and archers, because the pikes are just going to jam you right there, and then the archers are going to pick apart your knights. And as you see, you lose your units very fast. Like, you made it a good try, but yeah. You don't need to repair your castle here, because this isn't dealing enough damage to the castle that it's going to matter. Usually you only want to repair if it's a trebuchet or rams. But in this case, you're just wasting idle time. If he patrols into that, some of them are going to start attacking a house. No. So patrol will attack units before it attacks houses. It at least has that much, I believe. I'm pretty sure patrol is a little smarter than that. I know attack move, at the very least, will attack buildings only if there's no units. And the moment units show up, it'll stop attacking the buildings. and then attack the units. So that's why it's like if you're going to just have knights randomly attacking a house just to like kind of ping it down a little bit and not actually try to break in, if you attack move right next to the houses, the knights will start attacking the houses. But then if any like pikeman tries to show up to try to stab it in the back, it will run back. Right, yeah. So they might fight the pikes. That's more of a you shouldn't take this fight anyways. But it's better than trying to attack a single archer. Yeah, he shouldn't fight there, exactly. But you would have had a better situation had he attack moved or patrolled all those knights in there, because it would have actually dealt a bunch of damage as opposed to trying to fight one archer in the back and then getting body blocked by everyone else. So, yeah, again, repairing castle. Until they start trebbing it, this castle isn't going down, so you should be fine. This is just idle time and wasting stone. So, but yeah, now so if you lose that much, okay, so if you're queuing up 6 knights this much, like, this is when you want to make a couple more stables, because you want to have more production buildings. It's like 4 gating versus 2 gating in StarCraft with, like, stalkers. Two gates isn't going to produce, if you have the resources to produce out of it, you're going to be queuing up all these stalkers, and it's not going to be very fast, whereas if you queued up out of multiple gates, or multiple stables in this case, you'd restock your army immediately and be able to follow up with an attack. So, yeah. Couple things, but yeah. It's, that scout's definitely on auto scout. But, oh, your scout could have been doing stuff. Get your upgrades. You're getting some upgrades, and you're going up, you're not going up to Imperial, he is. So this is why you have so many resources. I try to go up to Imperial. Because again, if you get Imperial and you start trebbing down this castle, that is actually a way to win. But he's going to get up to Imperial before you, and what does Blue have inside the castle? A whole bunch of crossbows. Like 20 crossbows. A scary number of crossbows. So, yeah, this is one of those situations. And additionally, so one thing you have to realize is that, again, we can talk about the rock, paper, scissors of Age of Empires. Age of Empires is a very rock, paper, scissors heavy game, where knights lose to pikemen, pikemen lose to range units, and range units, or calves lose to pikes, pikes lose to range, range loses to cav. And so if he has this much, like, yeah, you research some ranged stuff, so you're getting some archers, which is good, to deal with the pikes. But instead of archers, I'd recommend getting skirms, because usually you want to have 1 gold unit and then 1 trash unit. That's kind of the comp you want. And so in this situation, your gold unit is knights, which even though he has pikes, that's fine to have these as your gold unit, because if you avoid the pikes, or you can pick off the pikes, then those guys can go and rain havoc on the archers. With skirms beat archers. So skirms have extra archer armor, so they trade well against archers, and they only cost food and gold, or food and wood. And so if you have skirms, then the skirms will start attacking the pikes who can't fight. Why is this castle longer range than yours? So that's fletching. We'll get into that in a second. And so if you had the skirms can pick off these pikes, and then by the time these pikes are weakened from all the skirms, then your knights go in and can actually fight this, or just run around to the archers. So a knight skirm should beat pike archer, generally, kind of, depending on how many archers he has. So, so the reason why he is beating you, or outranging you, is because of upgrades. So if we look at the archer range upgrades, we can look at fletching. Fletching says archers have +1 attack and +1 range. Also, castles and towers have +1 attack and range. Meaning that getting fletching means that his castles have longer range. And Bodkin Arrow too. So Bodkin Arrow is the castle version of that, or Castle Age version of that, and now he has +2 range. So I assume if we look at him, or actually we can just check. So this castle has 9 range, 8 plus fletching. This castle has 10 range, 8 plus 2, which is fletching and bodkin. So if you're going to go archers, then you want to get both of those upgrades, because it gets you the better range, and the farther your archers are away, the less likely they are to die. So that's why his cast can hit yours and yours can't. And also is dealing more damage, because his deals 11 plus 2, and yours only deals 11 plus 1. So yeah, unfortunately, it's like we already know how this game's gonna go. You're building your archers fine, but again, it's a gold unit, and you don't have. And this is where more production buildings will be more useful. Because if you had a bunch of production buildings, you could actually make an army that's useful. But trickling out of one production building is just not enough. Also, you haven't been building villagers, so keep your TC always non-idle until you hit 120 villagers. Also, the other problem is that by the time you get this upgrade, it's going to be way in the future, and you might already have all your units die. If you get a second production building, you can use that production building to to get the upgrades, and then the other one to keep producing archers. So he's got Imperial. This is about to get ugly. He's about to probably start dropping some Trebs. Yeah, he just stalls out and out macros me from here. Couldn't make Trebs work by the time you get them. Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. So, again, repairing this castle isn't worth it, but... so here's another thing is that if you send... Yeah, so you can see how much faster they move when you split them apart. He's gonna keep pressuring this. Don't attack the same spot. Again, mobility is key. If you keep attacking the same spot, you know that he's gonna defend it, and it's also right where all of his units are. So if you were to go down and attack here, he's almost cut through here, which is scary. But like again, all of this area you haven't checked out. If you check it out and find a way to break in, then the knights could go and wreak havoc. But yeah, he gets a Treb out, and he just starts trebbing you down. You're not even close to clicking up. Or you should click up soon. Don't send your archers forward, oh no. So yeah, you lose all your archers, which is unfortunate. There's nothing you can do about this Treb. This is when you abandon the castle, because this castle is going down, and you start getting ready to defend this one. Additionally, if you want to defend against a Treb, it's four villagers per Treb, generally, if you really need to keep it up. Because he's going to outdamage... He will outdamage, especially with the arrow firing, he's going to outdamage your castle repair. So I wouldn't even bother repairing this castle at this point. Because you can see how much damage those Trebs are doing. So, abandon this castle, start getting ready to defend this one. Click up to Imperial, but yeah. Unfortunately, like, this is not a good game because you're new to this, which is fine. You have the right idea of like defending your forward stuff, trying to attack where you can. It's just you don't know how Age of Empires works yet. So once you start figuring it out. So fun fact: if you see all these arrows missing, he can fix that by building a university and researching ballistics. This is a very important thing to know if you ever build archer civs. So university is very helpful because it has a couple of useful things. Murder holes isn't good. Don't get murder holes 90% of the time. We'll just tell you that right now. Save you from that embarrassment. Don't get murder holes until you're better. There's very rare reasons to get murder holes. But ballistics is the key one. So ballistics means that they fire more accurately at moving targets. And so in that situation, all these arrows, they would have hit that unit. If the unit's not like zigzagging back and forth, the arrows will actually track in a straight line and hit that archer. And so all those arrows would hit, meaning that... So ballistics is a very useful thing to get if you're going archers. And so you can see it also affects castles, so all that castle fire would have hit those knights. But like, yeah, until you turn around, none of those arrows are hitting. So you have idle villagers, you have military. And so now all he has to do is send his Trebs forward to hit this castle. Blitzing the thumb ring equals 100% accuracy. Generally. Yes, generally. No, it's a good point. It's something worth emphasizing. It's definitely thumb ring and thumb ring. So thumb ring hits stationary targets accurately, and ballistics hits moving targets. It's not 100% because if they're microing, like, you can micro away from it. Think of it like blink stalkers, like a blink stalker battle where stalkers fire at each other. Like, yeah, the stalker's laser hit scan, but if you blink away before the laser hits that stalker, it stops existing. So if you zigzag with your units, you can avoid the arrows even if they have thumb ring and ballistics. So at this point, blue should just move his things forward. You need to figure out what to do. Like, this is where, yeah, you just need to know. So another thing you can do is, one, you've already chopped through all this area, but your villagers are walking so far. This is where you, like, earlier you should have built a second lumber camp, because it's only 100 wood, and it saves you so much time that it's worth it. Because you're losing a lot of potential wood because they're walking away. Also, you should split off to another lumber line. Like, you should build a lumber line here, or here, or here, just somewhere. You could expand to another gold. Like you have your, oh wow, you had a really bad map. I forgot. But like you could go and take these middle golds because you don't want this many on one gold. More production buildings. Keep getting your relics if you're going to go for relics. You may as well go for more than just one, or use the monk offensively or defensively and heal your units. Because like if a monk was up here, you can start healing these knights, and then knights are expensive, so you get to save them. You just need to kind of make a plan. And so yeah, he's gonna sit back and boom. We can fast forward a little bit. When microwave from mangoes, exposed skirms, you want to try and move perpendicular to the line of fire. Exactly, yeah. Moving in a straight line is a mistake and will get you killed, but moving sideways will keep you alive. So I don't know. Actually, does he even know that you have that? Okay, so he does know about that castle. So he should move out because again, he's an Imperial. You're not. If he moved out with these, like this castle should already be dead. You have so many I don't like this. This is a terrible, terrible castle. Build that castle over here. Like a castle right here, it would be glorious because it's on a hill, protects against break-ins here. This castle just does the exact same thing, but doesn't do anything. So, you already have this area set up properly. He doesn't need that. So, additionally, one thing you can think about is more TCs. So building additional TCs is like building additional bases in StarCraft. There's a migration of villagers looking for more stones now. Oh yeah. So yeah, building another mining camp here would have been great. You scouted over here, so you grab that stuff. But so, yeah. So like blue should have moved out. So now he's moving out, which is good. But now you have time to get Trebs up. Yeah. So the important thing to know is that your base will always have a main gold, which has all those extra tiles. You have a main stone, which has I think 5 tiles. And then you have a secondary stone and a secondary gold. These 4 tile ones, and then there's some neutral ones like these 3 and 2 tile ones are neutral. And so you should always have at least 2 stones nearby your base, and you should always have 2 golds nearby your base. And then you have berries and a couple wood lines. So these villas are stuck, unfortunately. But yeah, so this is only a matter of time, because he has double your villagers, and then double your military. So, okay, so let's talk about some Treb stuff. This is good that you're getting Trebs, because you realize that in order to break this area, you need a Treb. If you send 1 Treb, again, it's easy to repair through, because you only need 4 villagers to repair it. And then it's easy to snipe that 1 Treb. If he sends his like, granted, he doesn't have very fast units, but he has 2 Trebs, and his Trebs can shoot your Treb and eventually kill it. Additionally, his 2 Trebs will kill your castle before your 1 Treb. And then if he wanted to, he could send all these units forward and probably kill your Treb before it kills your castle. So the general idea is it's called Treb trickling, where you don't want to send 1 Treb at a time because it's so slow, and by the time it kills it, your opponent will have reacted and handled it. If you wait till you had a 2nd Treb or a 3rd Treb, then by the time your opponent can fully react to you using your Trebs, their castle should be close to dying. And so that's where it's like, okay, if you had 2 Trebs here, like his castle's at 3/4 health. 2 Trebs will get it down to about half or a 4th health before you can start reacting to it, especially with having the smart thing is you have your defensive force here. You don't need to bring your defensive force here until he starts going. Okay, so you need to make sure not to. Here's the thing. If this crossbow hadn't been here, these knights are right here already, and they could actually start attacking that trebuchet. I don't know why you're taking down your Treb, but it was in a fine spot, just hitting the castle. This is a terrible fight because pikes will crush knights, and they're worth food and wood, whereas your knights are worth gold. Gold units are worth way more. So that Treb shouldn't have been moved, especially because it was under a castle, and so in order for them to attack that Treb, they'd have had to get under your castle. I can't believe you won. You probably didn't have his upgrades, and you didn't have his archers with you. So that's surprising. Actually, I don't know if you fully won that, but like it went a lot better than it should have. So you can hit the Trebs. You're gonna lose your knights to the last couple of pikes. So it went better, but still, unfortunately, not. And now, like, again, ballistics would solve this problem, but you can see that he's using his Trebs to attack. At this point, you're gonna lose your Treb anyways. You may as well try to hit that castle. Don't try to Treb down. So the Treb war is very important in Age of Empires. If you are outnumbered in Trebs, don't try to kill his Trebs. Kill the castle. because you're going to lose the Treb war here, and those 2 Trebs are going to kill your 1 Treb before that 1 Treb can kill even one of those Trebs. So at this point, your Treb will have 100% accuracy hitting the castle, as opposed to 15% accuracy hitting other Trebs. And so, yeah. So, this is really bad by him. He shouldn't stand under castle fire, but he has 2 Trebs. That castle is going to go down, and it should only be a matter of time because you don't have military. But you should keep, like, again, you have so much wood and gold floating, or you have so much food and wood floating that if you had a bunch of archery ranges and you're just making skirms, this would be a really dangerous spot for him. 1 knight won't do much against multiple crossbows, and then additionally he has pikes, so that's even more dangerous. But yeah, unfortunately this is just a slow push. But yeah, keep your TC from idling. And then if you build more additional TCs, that'd be good. Again, only repair the castle if you have a way to stop the Trebs. In this case, you know you don't because he has a bunch of pikes. And you only have knights. And so even if you repair it, he's eventually just going to kill it and you're going to run out of resources. You make a suicide run, which actually might work. No. Your knights are +2/+2, so you get 1 Treb, but he has to move his other Treb for it. But I would have just, like, this is one of those situations, you just kind of let that castle die because you can't defend it at this point. You need military. Send these villagers to make production buildings and make an army, and then you could probably consider repairing it, or make another castle. Honestly, if you just went and made a second castle right here, that'd be smarter, because by the time he goes up and starts pushing that castle, you would have our army to back it up. So, lucky you're getting your Trebs out. So I think that Treb is attacking the other Treb, which is, again, a mistake. If you kill this castle... Oh, you're going to attack the castle. Good. So if you kill the castle... oh no, you're attacking the house. Mistakes. And so what you can do is actually send villagers to repair the Trebs. So if you go and repair this Treb with a villager, then then by the time it just... Yeah, your Treb won't die to their Trebs. So, that's what I would recommend. Because, yeah, you don't want to lose... Oh, do you go and repair it? Too late. Ethiopian siege is very strong. That's a problem. But, yeah, Ethiopians have really strong siege. So we can just fast forward. There's not too much to talk about at this point. You already kind of lost the game. Mining camp, again, 1 space away. Again, this is where, you know, production buildings and then trash units to deal with the halves. So skirms would change this game immensely. But, because knights just can't beat halves. You will never trade efficiently for that. You're trading gold units for trash units. And you can see that he can just run under and not even care. But... And GG. That's fair. You recognize when you've lost. So, Ethiopians worst sim in the game. You hate them. Yo, you don't like machine gun pros? Anyways, Killbo, like, you have the right idea a lot. You knew what you were doing. You weren't just doing stuff to do stuff. So you had the right idea. It's just, you know, reputations. And then we can look at, so, quick current game, return to replays, main menu. So in the mods, if you go to mods, and then you find, you search for... Where is... I think I got rid of it. Thanks for the advice. Polish up your gaming, but absolutely. Interactive Build Order Guide by Cicero. So if you find this one, it's really helpful because what it's going to do is I can actually show it to you real quick. So we go to standard game. Oh no, it's... we want... I forget how to get this because it's custom scenario. And then you'll have all these options once you've loaded that mod. So we can do something like scouts. And it'll set this all up. We start game. And what it's going to do is it's going to put you in a game by yourself. And then it tells you what to do. And so you can start getting... It'll actually tell you what to do. And so now it'll tell you like, oh, hey, you know, it'll actually give you the instructions of what to do in what order. And that will help you know what you should be doing. So... highly recommend checking that out. But otherwise, that was a fun little game. I'm excited to see how good you get quickly, Killbo, because you have the background. And it just takes repetitions at this time, so you'll get there. So, thanks for everyone for watching for another Mojito Mondays match analysis. I will be including a link to my Discord down below. Check me out on twitch.tv/TheMojitoMonday. If you join my Discord, there's AoE2 match analysis channel, and you can submit your replays there. And every Monday night, I will be going over some replays and analyzing them. It's a little more in depth than normal casting, and so hopefully we can learn from it. So thanks everyone for watching, and I will catch you guys again.